you go to the Kiddush? Jonathan's Kiddush?
No, I didn't. This is off camera,
Yeah?
right? No, I don't.
I saw an amazing thing over Shabbos. It's very negay. What?
Me.
Yeah. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
It's very negay. We're discussing in halacha. We're dealing with achonis in Erev Shabbos. Now working on Erev Shabbos, shopping for Erev Shabbos, not fasting on Erev Shabbos, not eating too much on Erev Shabbos. All the different halachas of Erev Shabbos. And the Chafetz Chaim in the Sefer Shem Oilon, B'Shem Godol Echad, he writes that the Gemara says that when Shabbos comes, the neshamas take leave of the Gehenim and they get a day off, a day of rest. So the Godol Echad, the Chafetz Chaim brings him in Shem Oilon, he says that when does Shabbos begin? He says each neshama, it begins according to what their preparations, what time their preparations began for Shabbos. If they were careful from Chatzos and onward not to do malacha, they got released Chatzos on Friday. And if they worked from Mamash Erev Shabbos, till Shabbos, then they're not as fortunate. It's good to keep that in mind. Anyway, so last week we finished off with the halachas of mitzvah b'yosem and b'shluchai. We saw them. Shulchan Aruch says it brings them a royim who were mekayim all the mitzvahs of Shabbos. Rav Chizda, Rav Zera, Rav Safra. Imagine chopping wood. We spoke about mitzvah b'yosem and b'shluchai, and the Shulchan Aruch gives many examples of how we could be mekayim the mitzvah b'yosem and b'shluchai. And the Sharet Tzion asks, why is this different than any other mitzvah? We say that a mitzvah she'efshel asas l'idei acherim, so we say someone else should do it. Where Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, even if it can be done by somebody else, then you have to do it. It's mitzvah b'yosem b'shluchai. Why don't we say the klal that we have, the general rule? Sharet Tzion says, because one of two roots. We saw either because it's mitzvah shebegufay, you can't give a mitzvah shebegufay to somebody else. You can't say, well, I'm learning right now, so I'm going to ask someone else to put on tefillin for me. So then you can't tell somebody else, I'm going to ask someone else to prepare Shabbos, the tzarchei Shabbos, because that's a mitzvah shebegufay. You can't give that to a shliach. So that's really ef shalas l'idei acherim. The other teretz the Sharet Tzion says is because kavod Shabbos chamer odif is chamer. It's more chamir than shar mitzvahs. But either way, the Gedolei Hadar, even nowadays, we said Rav Yashiv, I remember seeing in Ashakton, he's careful to polish his shoes on Friday, to do something l'kavod Shabbos, to do something to exert some energy l'kavod Shabbos. The point is, you should matriach yourself something l'kavod Shabbos. Today I'd like to speak about the Isser Vasiyas Malacha on Erev Shabbos. You're not allowed to do Malacha. When al pi din are you supposed to stop working on Erev Shabbos? And what's called Malacha? So I just want to mention the Gemara in Pesachim before we start. Gemara in Pesachim says like this. Makim Shenagu, it's a Mishnah, the first Mishnah of Makim Shenagu, the fourth parak in Pesachim. It says, Makim Shenagu las Malacha b'Erev Pesachim at Chatzos Oisim, Makim Shenagu shaloi las is ein Oisim. So the Gemara says, Ma'yer Ya'arei Pesachim, why are we discussing Arei Pesachim? I feel Arei Shabbos, V'avim Tevim Nami. Even Erev Shabbos, it's also to do Malacha. The Sanya, Oisam Malacha b'Arei Shabbos is V'yomim Tevim Menamincho Lamala, Einoi Roya Simen Bracha. Someone who works on Erev Shabbos or on Erev Yontiv is not Roya Simen Bracha, doesn't see Simen Bracha. La'olam. Will never see Simen Bracha. By the way, the Mishnah Berurah says, that even though he sees that he's about to see Siman Bracha, he knows that if he's going to make this investment or he's going to sell this product Erev Shabbos, he sees he's going to make a lot of money. It's worth $5 or £5. He's selling it for $100. There's 95 pounds profit. Mishnah Berurah says, yeah, you might be making profit from this product, but any other profit that you were supposed to make during the week, you're not going to make it. So anyway, Siman Bracha doesn't mean from this particular deal on Erev Shabbos. This particular deal, you could make bracha. You could see a bracha, but you're going to lose out somewhere else. So anyway, Siman Bracha lo'ilo. So the Gemara says, Hossam, so the Kasha, why does the Mishnah only discuss Erev Pesach, not Erev Shabbos? So the Gemara says, Hossam and Amincha Lamala with the Asr. Samach Lamincha Loi. Shabbos is kilt fei. It's much more kuladik than Erev Pesach. Shabbos is only min Amincha Lamala. But Erev Shabbos and Erev Yontiv, Erev Pesach is even Samach Lamincha. So what does it mean min Amincha Lamala? Which mincha are we talking about over here? We're talking about mincha gedola, mincha ketana. So Rashi says, "Min mincha teisha shoyes mechza." Usually mincha gedola is shei shoyes mechza, 6.5 hours into the day, and mincha ketana is 9.5 hours. So Rashi is referring to the later mincha, which is mincha ketana. That means that 2.5 hours before night, right? And shoyes manias every day has 12 shoyes manias, 12 hours. If you take 9.5 hours into the day, so you're only left with 2.5 hours till 12. So that's basically an hour and something before Shkia. That's the Isser on Erev Shabbos, an hour and something before Shkia. That's according to Rashi. Some Rishonim are choylek, some Rishonim say no, it's mincha gedola. It's mamish sheish shoyes mechza. So the Shulchan Aruch, when he paskins this halacha in Siman Reish Nun Aleph, Sif Aleph, he brings the machlokes Rishonim, says yesh shoymrim mincha gedola, v'yesh shoymrim mincha ketana. He brings the brisa that you're not allowed, or whatever, one who works min mincha lamala eino roya siman bracha. And he says, what's considered mincha lamala? He says yesh shoymrim mincha gedola, v'yesh shoymrim mincha ketana. Now, what's the klolam in halacha? When the Shulchan Aruch says two yeshayimim, which yeshayimim do we paskin like? Yeshayimim Basra, the last yeshayimim. And since the Shulchan Aruch writes yeshayimim Basra, the last yeshayimim is mincha ketana, Magen Avraham says the halacha is the mincha ketana. That's when the isra malacha is chal. And Lamaisa the Mishnah Berurah says that hanoyigim kemekilim, someone is noyigim lahakal is lo yefsid. Can be mekel mincha ketana already, and till up to mincha ketana you can do malacha. But afterwards is eino roya siman bracha. Now, what does it mean eino roya siman bracha? Is there an isser or is there eino roya siman bracha? In other words, is there an isser? Let's say you want to buy from someone after mincha ketana. So if it's an isser, you're being mesayel de over avera. You're allowed to go to the store and buy from someone who's selling after mincha ketana food, whatever it is, or perhaps you're being mesayel de over avera. You're going and being masiyah besides the isser, perhaps you're being masiyah them in an isser. So the Rambam says there is an isser. It's not just ein roya siman bracha, but the Rivash, it's also machlokes Hashem. The Rivash says that whenever the Gemara says ein roya siman bracha, it doesn't mean that there's an isser. Otherwise, the Gemara should have said there's an isser. The Gemara says what it means, and it means what it says. If it doesn't say isser, it says ein roya siman bracha. So all it is ein roya siman bracha, and that's where the Taz paskins, and the Bir Halacha brings this Taz, and he says that it seems that some are makel like this Taz. There is no real isser. Ein roya siman bracha sounds like, if he wants to, he doesn't want to. That's up to him a little bit. But really, it's definitely ein ruach hachamim loichamin for someone to work after mincha ketana. Now, what's considered malacha? When it says you're not allowed to do malacha after mincha ketana, what is malacha? So naturally, you would think malacha is something which is asur to do on Shabbos, right? If you're not allowed to do schita on Shabbos, so perhaps you're not allowed to do schita on Erev Shabbos, right? Whatever is considered a malacha on Shabbos, that's what Chazal asur in Erev Shabbos. So the Achronim say that's not what malacha means. Malacha doesn't mean whatever is asur to do on Shabbos. That's what's asur to do on Erev Shabbos. Malacha means something which takes time and is a tircha to do on Erev Shabbos. It could be something even like arranging a closet, right? There's no isser malacha on Shabbos to arrange your closet, unless you're even boyer by sorting some clothes. But if there's no malacha involved, arranging your closet, no malacha. But if it takes time and it's a tircha, then that's a problem of Eisem Malacha Erev Shabbos. Because why? Because what's the Isra of doing Malacha on Erev Shabbos? Because a person has to be punid, classic B'tzarcha Shabbos. You have to be available, you have to make time to prepare for Shabbos. So if you're going to get caught up in something else, you're taking away from the time that you have, or you're supposed to have to prepare for Shabbos. So that's why, even something which is not a Malacha on Shabbos, it's also asur to do.
What if it will give you
on Erev Shabbos? What if it's Tzorech Shabbos? Very good.
No, let's say cleaning your closet. For you, you know what I mean?
It'll give you a peace of mind. In other words, it's like cleaning your house. For you, it's like cleaning your house. Then it's mutter. If it's Tzorech Shabbos, Lamashal, doing spanja, right? Sweeping the floor, or you're being oisik and malach on Friday. You're totally busy on Friday. But that's considered Tzorech Shabbos. Tzorech Shabbos is not bichlal this
not necessarily Tzorech Shabbos,
but for you, it'll give you a chavas hadas.
Yeah, it's a peace of mind.
That for you, that's Tzorech Shabbos. For you, that's Tzorech Shabbos. But again, you should know. Look, a person could technically say any business deal that I'm not going to be doing on Erev Shabbos is going to give me peace of mind, and it's Tzorech Shabbos. So you have to really know. If you're living in the house and it really bothers you, and it's part of your Einik Shabbos to have a clean house, then that could be considered in being mesak in the bayis for Shabbos. But it's time to go ahead and do business and say, listen, I'll have such aggravation if I don't do it, and it's going to disturb my Shabbos. That, for sure, isn't nichlal in this heter. The Shulchan Aruch says that Tzorech Shabbos is mutter. There are other heterim also. For example, if you're working for somebody else, if you're a socher, if you're a schir yoim, you're working for somebody else, then the halacha is you're supposed to work mamish till before Shabbos. You have no right to take off hours from someone else's work day. Someone is paying you. You're hired by somebody else. Again, that halacha doesn't apply there either. Or, there's an interesting one. The Bir Halacha says, if it's a davar or avid, if it's something that, if it's a deal you're not going to get after Shabbos, it's mamash a davar or avid, there the Bir Halacha wants to say it's like chalamayid. Just like chalamayid, it's also to do business or malacha. Here also, Erev Shabbos, if it's a davar or avid, the Bir Halacha wants to say it's mutter as well. Stam, you should know, doing business on Friday, not malacha, but just business, the Magen Avraham says pragmatia is less of a problem. But the Bir Halacha, the Mishnah Berurah, that's the Magen Avraham, the Mishnah Berurah brings him down. The Mishnah Berurah says that you can do it mamish till Kisha Kaidem Shkia. What does it mean Kisha Kaidem Shkia? So the Sharatzian in Reish Nun Vav says Kisha Kaidem Shkia basically means Mincha Ktana, because Mincha Ktana, Teisha Shoyz and Mechza, 9.5 hours, is till Tzeis. So from Ksha Kaidem Shkia till Tzeis usually works out 2.5 hours left. So that's basically the same time. So Pragmatia, although the Magen Avraham wants to be Mekel, and there is Makom L'Hakel for a business deal, the Bir Halacha and the Sha'ar Tzion seem to say it has the same halacha as other malachas. Another example of where you could be Mekel of doing malacha on Erev Shabbos would be if it's Tzorech Mitzvah. Mishnah Berurah brings, let's say writing mezuzahs. A sofer is writing mezuzahs. So if it's Tzorech Mitzvah, you're allowed to do it on Erev Shabbos even after the Zman that it's also to do malacha. But you're not allowed to take money for it. You're not allowed to charge the guy for it. But if the person needs it for Shabbos, if the guy needs the mezuzah for Shabbos, there you are allowed to charge money for it because he needs it for mamish for Shabbos. But it doesn't need it for Shabbos, it's just a Tzorech Mitzvah. There you're allowed to do it but without charging for it. Let's say it's Tzorech Shabbos. Tzorech Shabbos, let's say taking a haircut on Friday. Taking a haircut on Friday, right before Shabbos. So there also, you are allowed to ask a Yid to give you a haircut, even after the Zman that's Osir Basiyas Malacha, even after Mincha Ktana, allowed to take a haircut. And the Yid is even allowed to charge money. The guy who's giving you the haircut is even allowed to charge money for the haircut on Erev Shabbos because it's nicker to everybody that it's L'Tzorech Shabbos. Something which is nicker to everybody is L'Tzorech Shabbos, you're even allowed to charge money for it. But if it's not nicker, you're not allowed to charge money, but you're allowed to do it anyways. So Tzorech Shabbos, you're allowed to do it. Tzorech Mitzvah, you're allowed to do it. Dover Ovid, you're also allowed to. If you're a Schir Yoim, if you're hired by somebody else, you're also allowed to. The guy who's doing the haircut or the guy who's doing the ksivas mezuzahs, is he allowed to charge money or not? That depends. If it's a malacha that's nicker, so the marshal taking a haircut is nicker for everybody that's L'Tzorech Shabbos. So if you're taking money, people are not going to confuse that there's no marasai. People are not going to confuse and think, oh, if you're taking money for this, I can also take money for something else. Because everybody understands this is L'Tzorech Shabbos. But for something else which is not nicker that is L'Tzorech Shabbos, there you're not allowed to take money for it. Marshal, that's why I know in Eretz Yisrael, they have these apartment buildings and they do sponja right before Shabbos. They hire this lady to do sponja in the hallways, in every building to do sponja before Shabbos. So is she allowed to do sponja right before Shabbos after Mincha Ktana? She's being matriach herself. So that's Tzorech Shabbos. It's Tzorech Shabbos, and it's nicker to everybody that's the Tzorech Shabbos because everybody knows she's doing Tzorech Shabbos to make the hallway clean, the covered Shabbos, and that's not a problem. But if it's a malacha which is not nicker that it's Tzorech Shabbos, and so then you're not allowed to take money. But if it's Tzorech Shabbos, you're allowed to do it. But if it's not even Tzorech Shabbos, then it's mamish aser. The same halacha l'mashal applies in Erev Yantiv. Let's say building a sukkah right before sukkahs. So you have these people that take money, you pay them money, and they build your sukkah. Erev Yantiv, you don't have time to build a sukkah. So you ask somebody else to build a sukkah for you. So there again, everyone understands that building a sukkah on Erev Sukkahs is the Tzorech Yantiv. You need the sukkah Tzorech Yantiv. So everybody understands that's what you're doing it for. So because it's nicker that it's the Tzorech Yantiv, and it is Tzorech Yantiv, so you're allowed to ask someone to build a sukkah for you on Erev Yantiv and also pay the guy money. The guy is also allowed to accept money for it. Because again, as soon as it's nikkur that it's l'tzarech Chana v'tzarech Shabbos, the guy's allowed to accept money for it.
Is it to do with that being Mesiach Das, or is it more that it's a tircha that will make you tired for Shabbos? Or is
no, not make you tired for Shabbos, but it's going to distract you from tzarech Shabbos. So
Right.
where it's tzarech Shabbos, so where the malacha that you're doing is tzarech Shabbos, then it's not a problem, because that's what you're doing. You're doing tzarech Shabbos. But the problem is for the guy that's doing it for you. For the guy that's doing it for you, it's not tzarech Shabbos, right? You're taking the haircut, that's tzarech Shabbos. But the guy who's doing it for you, or the guy who's doing sponge for you, he's not living in that building. For him, it's not tzarech Shabbos.
Right.
So how's he allowed to take money for it? The answer is because everybody understands, everybody knows. There's no Mara sign if he'll take money for it, because everybody knows that.
So you're keeping in your mind the whole time that you're getting ready for Shabbos. That's the idea.
Right.
Right.
Not just keeping it in your mind, but yeah, you're doing
Right.
something which is going to help you get ready for Shabbos. Yeah. Another thing that's mutter to do on Friday, if it's a meleches arai. If it's a meleches arai, it's also mutter. For example, let's say you have extra time, you want to write a letter to your friend. Igeres Shloimim, the Rambam calls it. So you want to write a letter, so it's not Tzarech Shabbos, you're sending it out, you're writing a letter before Shabbos. So there it's meleches arai. Meleches arai is also mutter to do on Friday, even after Mincha Ktana. Meleches kva is what's osir. It's a big heter. L'mashal, let's say your button of your jacket falls off. It's not your Shabbos jacket. So, sewing a button, the Shmir Shabbos says, that's called meleches arai. It's not called meleches kva. Meleches arai is mutter doing. But let's say you want to sew a beged, entire suit. That's meleches kva. That would be a halacha called meleches kva. That you're not allowed to do. Meleches arai is mutter to do. The Rabbi Yoel in the Chutshani, he has a chumrah. He defines meleches arai, something which you sit down and you do it with a hidden imuch and a mezuman. He says, for example, sewing a button is also called meleches kva, because you're sitting down to sew a button. Meleches arai means something which is only agav. Let's say, for example, you're passing your wall and you realize there's a crack in the wall and you just want to put some stuff over it. It's not something which I'm going to do that. You just meleches arai. It's agav. You're in the middle of doing something else, but you're quickly doing this. That's meleches arai. Meleches kva is anything you sit down to do it, even if it's a small melacha. That's what he considers. That's how he differentiates between meleches arai and meleches kva. But other poskim, I saw the Piskei Teshuvos, he says meleches arai is something which doesn't take a lot of time and a lot of tircha. And that's what he calls sewing a button. He calls that meleches arai, not like the Rabbi Yoel. It's because even if you're sitting down actually and doing it, that's not called meleches kva because it doesn't take a lot of time and it doesn't take a lot of effort. The Shmir Shabbos calls also passages like that. Anything that doesn't take a lot of time, a lot of effort, isn't included in this Eina Roya Simon Bracha after Mincha Ktana before Shabbos. It's only something which takes a huge amount of time or a lot of effort. That's what's asur. So again, something which is meleches arai is mutter. Something which is l'tzorech mitzvah. Even if it's meleches kva, for example, you're sitting down, you're writing a mezuzah for somebody, that's also mutter. Are you allowed to take money for it? That it depends if he needs it for Shabbos or not. If he needs it for Shabbos, you're allowed to take money for it. If it's tzorech Shabbos, again, it's also mutter if it's tzorech Shabbos. Anything that's tzorech Shabbos. Take me a haircut, it's tzorech Shabbos, l'kavod Shabbos. Is the guy who's giving you the haircut allowed to take money for it? Yes, because everyone understands that it's nikkur that it's tzorech Shabbos. So tzorech mitzvah, tzorech Shabbos, meleches arai. If you're a schir yoim, if someone hired you to do malacha for you, you have no right to stop after mincha ktana. The guy's paying you for the day. That's also dovra avod. The Bir Halacha says that's also like chalamoy. That's also mutter. Other than these five, I can't think offhand what else is mutter on Friday. But that's basically the halacha and simulation on Aleph. That are oisem malachim and mincha lamala. We're saying mincha lamala means mincha ktana. 9.5 hours into the day. Einu roya siman bracha, Zeitz gebenched.